She called the cops on me for locking my own pool from the inside. Yeah, that's right, my pool, my lock, my rules. But in her world, apparently peace and privacy look suspicious. Picture this. I'm minding my business just trying to get some quiet time. And there she is pacing in front of my gate like she's got a perp on the loose phone glued to her ear. Voice pitched so high you'd think she was auditioning for Broadway. He's locked himself inside our community pool, she's telling the cops, making sure every window on the street gets the message. You know what's funny? It wasn't her pool. Wasn't the community's either. Every tile, every screw, every inch of that concrete mine. Built and paid for long before there was ever an HOA in this neighborhood. But you try explaining logic to someone like Cheryl Maddox. It's useless. By the time the cops rolled up, she was out there waving her clipboard like it was a police badge, ranting about rule violations and community safety. Me, I didn't yell, didn't argue, just handed the officer the deed, the same one she's ignored, what a dozen times before. When the sheriff showed up, that's when her face really changed. She finally got the message. Her authority stops at my fence. Sometimes the law just stands with you quietly, and that's all it needs to do. If you've ever tangled with an HOA or even just a nosy neighbor, maybe you'll get where I'm coming from. I'm Ethan Cole. I'm that neighbor who fixes his own squeaky gate before it can annoy anyone, keeps every receipt, and actually believes a good fence makes good friends. That pool. It's more than a summer hangout. It's the heart of my home. My dad taught me water and boundaries, respect them, or they'll remind you why you should. That pool is where I clear my head, where I read in the morning, where I was standing the first time Cheryl decided to introduce herself like a court summons. She had that clipboard out, a smile that stopped at her teeth. Cheryl Maddox, realtor, rulebook enthusiast, and apparently self-appointed community overlord. She'd just taken over the HOA board and already talked about the neighborhood like it was a product she owned. Mr. Cole, she said, standing pin straight, several residents believe the pool should be open for community events. It's visible from the sidewalk, which means it's part of the shared aesthetic. I kept it cool. It's on my deed. Maintained, insured, paid for by me. Not an amenity. My responsibility. She barely looked at the photocopy I handed her, lips curling into that polite, unimpressed way people practice in front of the mirror. She muttered, "We'll see about that." I didn't slam any doors, didn't raise my voice. I did what I always do, put things in order. New lock for the gate. Printed out maintenance logs, stuck them in a binder. Put up a plain sign, private pool. Because a little clarity saves everyone time. To me, that lock was respect. Respect for boundaries, for liability, for the quiet we all say we want. At least until someone decides rules are more important than rights. But people like Cheryl don't see locks as boundaries. To them, it's a challenge. The emails started rolling in soft at first, like she was doing me a favor, then firmer with the board's fancy seal stamped at the bottom. Community cohesion, uniform standards. All those phrases that sound harmless until you're on the receiving end. I replied once, attached the deed. Replied twice, kept it courteous. Third time, I stopped explaining. This was never about a pool party. It was about control. She wanted to make an example out of me. What she didn't get was I've spent my life keeping things steady. I don't rattle easy. My dad used to say, never raise your voice before you raise your evidence. He wasn't a lawyer, but he understood the law of boundaries, deeds, signatures, the things that matter because someone took the trouble to put them in writing. I watched him live by that. Every summer we'd fix that same old wooden gate behind the house, the one that guards my pool now. The hinges squeaked, latch stuck. He never wanted to replace it. A thing worth keeping's worth maintaining, he'd say, handing me the wrench. I didn't get it then. He'd make me measure twice, check the land slope, show me how water never argues, it just goes where it's allowed. People, he'd tell me, aren't so different. Those days smelled like cedar and metal polish, cut grass and effort. Sun-burning tools, clanking lessons, sinking in somewhere deep. The same gate stands today, different paint, same wood. When I lock it, it's not about shutting people out, it's about protecting what he built. He believed property isn't just ownership, it's stewardship. Treat it with respect, you get peace. Ignore it and it'll turn on you. Sometimes I stare at that gate and I see every summer afternoon we spent keeping it upright, his hands steadying mine, his patience holding the line. Cheryl Maddox blew into my life like a cold front, nice at first, but sharp enough to chill the air once she settled in. She called it a community refresh initiative, which turned out to mean control everything possible. She spoke in brochure language, curb appeal, neighborhood branding, all that. When she walked down the street, it wasn't a stroll. It was an inspection. Clipboard always ready, phone always at her ear, standing so straight she looked like she'd swallowed the flagpole. At first I thought she was just nosy. Waved when I mowed the lawn, complimented my hedges, mentioned how inviting the pool looked from the street. The first sign of trouble came in the HOA newsletter. Glossy, full-color title, Our Shared Spaces. Right in the center, a photo of my pool captioned, Community Feature Maintained by Local Residents. I read it 3 times, trying to figure out if it was a joke. Next morning, she's outside, camera in hand. "Morning, Cheryl," I said, trying to keep it even. "Nice article, but that pool isn't a community feature." She smiled. "Simple misunderstanding, Ethan. It's just so visible from the street. Feels like part of the neighborhood. We like to highlight what makes us unified." "Visibility isn't ownership," I replied. "That's private property, documented and insured." She tapped her pen on the clipboard, that look people get when they're writing you up in their head. She said, "Of course, professional courtesy. I'll make sure it's fixed in the next issue." But the correction never came. Whispers did, though. Started hearing my name in little phrases: non-compliant fencing, unregistered structure, safety hazard. Nothing official, just gossip drifting through the air. By the end of the month, neighbors were avoiding eye contact. Someone left a note in my mailbox about maintaining a cooperative spirit. Cheryl's brand of power wasn't loud, it was surgical. She didn't confront, she corrected. Didn't accuse, just advised. Every word polite, every sentence sharpened. One afternoon she showed up again, clipboard tucked under her arm. If everyone followed one standard, she said, we'd have harmony. I met her eyes. Uniformity isn't harmony. It's silence. She smiled thin, wrote something down. I didn't know it then, but that was the start of the invisible case she was building. Then came the splashing after midnight. At first I thought it was a raccoon or stray dog. Grabbed my flashlight, stepped outside, caught 3 teenagers scrambling out of my pool, laughing like they'd just robbed Fort Knox. One of them said something about using the community pool. I didn't yell, just pointed at the private property sign, told them to leave. They left mumbling, but that was it, damage done. I drained the pool, cleaned the filters, bought a new lock. Not because I was mad, because responsibility matters. If someone got hurt in there, it was on me, not the HOA. Dad's words echoed back. Boundaries don't protect you from people. They protect people from themselves. 2 days later, the lock was on. Solid brass, hard to miss. I set the code, tested it, finally exhaled. Peace, right? That lasted all of 48 hours. By Friday night, I get an email, urgent HOA notice, unauthorized modification. Cheryl, of course. She wrote it like she was starring in her own legal drama. The addition of a locking mechanism on shared access property violates Madison Creek Bylaw 6.33. Immediate removal required. I stared at the screen, nearly laughed. Shared access property. The words didn't even apply. Never stopped her before. I replied, attached the deed, a photo of the survey. Private property under my deed, confirmed by the county. Lock stays for safety and liability. An hour later, another email. Shorter. We'll be reviewing this at the next board meeting. Compliance is expected. I could practically hear the pen tapping on her clipboard. So I started a new folder, HOA correspondence. Every message, every timestamp printed and filed. If Cheryl wanted paperwork wars, she was about to meet a master. Next week, I catch her snapping photos of the gate, the lock catching the sunlight. I didn't confront her. Didn't wave. Just let the silence speak for itself. Some people mistake calm for weakness, but sometimes calm is just armor. Then the fines started. First one came in an envelope stamped with the HOA logo. Notice of non-compliant violation, unauthorized lock installation, $100 a day until resolved. By Wednesday, there were 2 more. By Friday, 5. Cheryl found her rhythm, daily fines, automated, relentless. Meant to wear me down, not correct anything. I pinned the first few up on my bulletin board. After the 10th, I started documenting, built a binder, every fine, email, notice, timestamp. Wasn't just collecting paper, I was building a wall. Every letter she sent became more ammo for me. Meanwhile, rumors spread faster than the fines. Neighbors whispered that I'd locked the pool to hoard water, or that the HOA might press charges. On trash day, I'd catch little bits. He's always fixing something back there. It's creepy, right? All those locks. Fear works quiet in neighborhoods like mine, polite but poisonous. A few still talk to me. Tom next door, good guy, hates drama, caught me changing the pool light one evening. Just give her the code, man. It's not worth all this. I looked at him, wire in hand. It's not about the code, Tom. It's about control. He shook his head. You sound like your dad. That's the point. Soon after, I started getting copies of board meeting summaries. Transparency notices, they called them. Everyone listed me as a topic: ongoing, non-compliance, pending action, resident resistance, like being tried in public without ever getting to speak. But after a while, anger gave way to precision. I started reading the bylaws line by line. Turns out most of Cheryl's fines didn't even cite real rules. She built her case on intimidation, not legality. And intimidation, once documented, looks a lot like evidence. I bought a scanner, backed up every file, kept a flash drive labeled insurance. At night, the sound of the printer became my soundtrack, proof on proof, page on page. Then she sent a mass email. We encourage residents to report suspicious activity around the locked pool area. She turned the neighborhood into her own surveillance network. That night, I found a muddy footprint by my gate, size smaller than mine. Someone had been watching. By August, privacy was just a memory. A faint click behind the hedges, a flicker of light where no motion sensor should be. Then I found a tiny black security camera zip-tied to my fence post, pointed straight at my pool. Wasn't mine. I pulled it down, snapped a photo, added it to the binder. Then came the drone, a plastic bug hovering over the fence, pausing right above my yard, then drifting back to Cheryl's place. Next morning, my phone lit up with messages, screenshots from the HOA Facebook page. Cheryl had posted a slideshow: community safety concerns, unpermitted pool modifications, complete with photos of my filter, my lock captioned risk to residents. She left out the trespassing and cameras, of course. Comments exploded, some defended me, most didn't. Rumors always move faster than truth. I went quiet, used the silence, started digging into county codes, legal forums, stories from other homeowners who'd fought the same battle. That's when I founded a single line that changed everything. An HOA's authority ends at the edge of private property. A deed is a boundary, not a suggestion. Visibility does not equal jurisdiction. Those words, they hit harder than any fine. So I started my own timeline. Interference by Madison Creek, HOA dates, photos, posts, everything. I wasn't venting now. I was preparing. Sometimes at night I'd watch the faint blue of the pool lights on the fence, the gate my father built, holding steady. To Cheryl, it was defiant. To me, it was proof that some lines aren't meant to be crossed. One Saturday afternoon, hot enough to melt the driveway, I'm skimming leaves off the pool and the siren hits. Patrol car slows to a stop, lights flicker against the fence. Cheryl's out front, arms crossed, clipboard at the ready. Officer steps out, already tired. Afternoon, sir. Got a call about unauthorized pool use on HOA property. I almost laugh. You're on my driveway, officer. Unless I trespassed onto my own land, I think there's a misunderstanding. Cheryl jumps in. He's locking it up, restricting access, modifying it without approval. It's a safety issue. The officer turns to her. This pool isn't on his deed. She wavers, mumbling about how it's always been considered part of the subdivision. Considered isn't ownership, I say, handing over the deed. He scans it, county stamp, all official. Looks fine, sir, he says. No violations here. But if this keeps up, get yourself a lawyer. Paperwork wars can get ugly. Cheryl stands there, color draining from her face as the cop pulls away. She hisses, "This isn't over." I just step back to my gate. No, it's not. That night, I call Laura Hale, property rights attorney. She's seen more HOA power trips than anyone I know. Send me everything, she says. I do emails, fines, drone footage, even Cheryl's Facebook rants. 3 days later, Laura calls back. "Ethan, you're not going to like this, but you'll want to hear it." She'd traced the county maintenance permits and stormwater records. Turns out the HOA had quietly rerouted part of their drainage system into my property a year back, without permit, without telling me. If that pipe ever busted, I'd be liable for damages on land I didn't even control. But that, Laura said, gives us leverage. You own the flow, E. For the first time, I felt still not angry, just ready. By the time the county scheduled an inspection, The air was electric, like the moments before a thunderstorm. Half the neighborhood showed up, coffee in hand, ready for a show. Cheryl stood at the center, blue blazer, clipboard, voice pitched for drama. Today, she announced, the county will finally confirm what we've been saying, that this pool is subject to community regulation. The county inspector arrives, sets up his tools. The sheriff's there too, just in case. I hand over the binder. Deed, survey, maps, all color-coded, notarized. The inspector runs his finger along the line on the map. This pool and the drainage fall completely within private property. The crowd gets louder. Cheryl's face falters for the first time. She tries to argue about visual plans, but the sheriff cuts her off. Regulations don't override ownership. The county inspector adds, that lock is on a private gate. No jurisdiction. For the first time, Cheryl loses her cool. You must feel very proud of yourself, Mr. Cole. No, I say. Just relieved. The sheriff leans in. You're good far as this office is concerned. Just keep your paperwork handy. By sunset, the whole thing is on Facebook. Someone filmed it from their porch. Headlines fly, sheriff sides with homeowner and HOA dispute. Laura texts me, you stood your ground. I walk to the pool, sit on the edge, just listen to the water, and realize for the first time, silence doesn't feel like isolation. It feels like vindication. The hearing was a blur. Rows of chairs, hum of AC, neighbors, reporters. Cheryl sitting across from me, fortress of pearls and pastel. The judge didn't need to raise his voice. All right, he said. Let's see what's real. Cheryl made her speech about community trust polished and empty. Laura just slid the deed and survey across the table. The judge studied it, glanced up. This pool predates the HOA by decades. Their jurisdiction stops at the boundary. Laura presented the county records about the illegal drainage. Cheryl's grip on her clipboard went white. The judge leaned back. Mrs. Maddox, you find the owner of the pool supplying your homes. That can't be. It is. It's right here. The ruling was swift. The fines were voided. HOA ordered to pay restitution for unlawful fines and environmental damages. Cheryl's face went sheet white. One by one, her pearls broke, scattering across the floor as she tried to gather her papers, bylaws, fake citations, all of it slipping through her hands. The judge's words echoed, restitution suspension, county oversight effective immediately. I didn't linger. Gathered my binder, walked out into the afternoon. Outside, the courthouse doors shut with a quiet thud. No victory lap. Just a sense that justice, like water, finds its level, slow, steady, and certain. News spread fast. Next morning, every mailbox got a county bulletin. HOA found guilty of property overreach. Restitution ordered. Cheryl resigned 3 days later. No speech, just a plain note effective immediately. Her house went up for sale, lawn browning beds empty. I didn't slow down when I passed. Some endings don't need an audience. The county rebuilt the HOA from scratch. New bylaws, clear boundaries. Laura's wording right there. Respect for deed boundaries supersedes association preference. Logic returned.